Hello everyone, this is part 9 of What If Naruto Changed, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Senju Tsunade had awoken this morning, dreading about the gigantic headache that would soon occur. A couple of hours ago, she had sent messages to all the clan heads of Konoha, as well as the Council of Elders, as to inform them of a meeting when she would present a document of extreme importance against the Akatsuki. The word alone had merit, so she didn't need to inform all of them of the document's contents beforehand. With 10 minutes left, Tsunade began to anticipate the possible arguments both in favor and against the Raikage's proposal for an alliance between Kumo, Konoha and Sunagakure for the special and only purpose of defeating the Akatsuki. Of course, she would give first word to the Hyuga clan, considering their past history with Kumo. Hyuga Hiashi, up to this day, still mourns his brother's actions and could quite possibly vote against Kumo's offer. Tsunade knew that to be bad, considering the Hyuga clan's power within the council. A great majority of the changes that Tsunade managed to approve in Konoha were due to the vote of confidence displayed by the Hyuga clan. Sure, the other ones were important, but it didn't mean much if the Hyuga are the opposition force. Still, the special and only purpose of defeating Akatsuki was an argument she could use to convince Hiashi that the alliance was only temporary. After hearing Kakashi's report about Naruto's fight against the Hachibi Jinchuriki, she was more than confident that both Naruto and the Raikage's brother would form one hell of a duo, capable of great things together. Not to mention the joint power of destruction as well. A knock on the door was heard, signaling the beginning of Tsunade's headache as her assistant Shizune's head appeared from within the open door. Tsunade-sama, all the clan heads are gathered. It's time to start. The first female Hokage nodded, before leaving one big sigh in dismay. Thanks Shizune, I'll be there in 1 minute. Please send word for Kakashi, he should be T. As if expecting to hear his name, the man suddenly entered the Hokage's office. I guess it's a good thing that I was passing by this neighborhood. Tsunade looked at the Junin for a while, before a smirk appeared on her face. She didn't know why she was so surprised, since Kakashi always seemed to hang around the Hokage's office. Since you went to Kumo and talked with the Raikage, there might be some questions left for you, so I called you to participate as well. I'm sure you know that there is a high possibility that this alliance won't be approved, considering Kumo's history with the Hyuga. And even if the offer is approved by the majority of the council, I still have to tell the Kazekage about it, who will then pass the offer to his council. That last part really bummed Tsunade more than her council. Passing through two councils is a major situation. Kumo had trouble with all the major villages, not only with Konohagakure. Kakashi, though, wasn't fazed. I bet the worst is passing the motion through Konoha's council. Gaara has a major vote of confidence from his council. Both his brother and sister are part of it. I hope you're right, because I don't want to go through this mess for everything to be in vain. I'm even thinking of demanding some of Kumo's sake from the Raikage. Tsunade said, before marching towards the door with Kakashi and Shizune behind her. After entering the meeting room, Tsunade felt all eyes on her, while she crossed the room to reach her seat, flanked by both Kakashi and Shizune. While walking, she briefly studied everyone's reactions so as to verify those that would be more likely to oppose her in this manner. The majority of the ninja clan heads had the same faces as she remembered. The head of the Nara clan had a look of clear boredom as was expected of Shikaku. Chusa Akmaiki and Inoiki Yamanaka were both smiling, like usual. The Aburame and Hyuga were collected and more reserved. The other clan heads were the same as well. The elders were unreadable, much to her frustration. In the end, though, only one elder's opinion mattered, because the other two would just follow his lead. This influential man was sitting right in front of the Hokage's seat on the other side of the table, with his only visible eye closed. Apart from Hiashi in this manner, Danzu was Tsunade's worst political enemy. Tsunade could loathe him as much as she wanted, but she couldn't deny that he has a great amount of influence over this council's decisions. Countless times she remembered her old sensei being outvoted because of Danzu's actions. If she had issues with the Hyuga clan regarding the approval of the alliance, she now had to think about the possibility of Danzu meddling as well. Tsunade approached her seat and addressed everyone appropriately. Welcome distinguished clan heads and elders of Konoha. I appreciate you all for coming here and I promise that this will be as brief as possible. Typical bureaucratic greeting, but Tsunade couldn't simply start the meeting, cursing everyone and throwing Kumo's offer for them to vote for, without first explaining everything to its finest detail. As all of you know, 1 week ago, I've sent a team led by elite Junin Hitaki Kakashi towards Kumogakure in order to inform the Reikage of the Akatsuki organization's existence and how dangerous they can be. At first, the man was reluctant to even receive the info, saying that one small organization such as Akatsuki couldn't be considered a threat to one of the 5 great hidden villages. After extensive persuasion from Kakashi and his team, the Reikage, reluctantly, agreed to take a look at the info we presented. Of course, Tsunade couldn't simply reveal that the persuasion was actually a fight between Jinchurikis. She allowed some time for the information to sink in, before she continued. It took less than a second for the proud Yondaime Reikage to realize the danger posed by the organization, after taking a brief look on the known associates. Excuse me Hokage-sama, but why were we called here just for a mission report? The head of the Inuzuka clan asked, demonstrating her lack of patience in this manner. Before I explain the reason why I called you all here, I felt it was only reasonable to explain what happened beforehand. Now, the mission ended in success with a letter of reply by the Reikage. She took some time, knowing that she had the council's full attention right now. He starts the letter appreciating the information supplied by us, but the second part is the very reason why I called this meeting to order. The Reikage wishes to form an alliance with us and Sunagakure for the special purpose of defeating Akatsuki. The sudden silence that ruled the room was deafening as everyone, rather unconsciously, started looking at Hiashi for his reaction. Like Tsunade, everyone remembered the episode that pretty much solidified the Hyuga clan's reservations against Kumogakure. Hyuga Hiashi was clearly affected by the sudden news as something deeply buried within him resurfaced once more. The death of his brother, on that faithful day, affected him. Hiashi, I think everyone here knows what Kumo has done to your family, hence the main reason why I called this meeting. As Hokage, I grant you the right to, single-handedly, annul this alliance should it ever be approved by this council. She couldn't lie, because Hiashi would see right through it with his eyes. She had to speak to him with complete honesty, otherwise she wouldn't have his trust. Hiashi looked at the woman from the corner of his eyes, before closing it for a second. If I have the right to veto, then it's only logical to exclude the Hyuga clan's vote in this particular manner. I'll wait until the last vote to speak. Tsunade nodded, seeing as the man was right. Okay then, unless someone here has more objections, shall we move on to the votes? Tsunade asked, quite surprised that only Hiashi opened his mouth so far. With Naruto, lemon time, so be warned, Unaware that his name was mentioned in the council meeting, Naruto was quite busy inside his bedroom. He was busy just lying on his bed as he watched his gorgeous and sexy girlfriend stripping. One thing that Yugao often teased about was that she, in her Chunin days, was often summoned to perform the seduction and assassination missions that no other girl was willing to perform, except for Anko of course. That being said, she knew a lot of ways to render the target helpless against her control, which was just fine for Naruto. Lust associated with the danger of losing his life ended up inspiring his dirty mind into picturing the possible services provided by his mistress. Add to the fact that the woman was taking her battle clothes off and the blonde was shivering in anticipation. Being sensitive to swift emotion changes, Yugao smirked at the reaction as she slowly unclipped her chest armor, while looking straight at Naruto's deep cerulean blue eyes. She could feel how much her man wanted her right now and her body responded to Naruto's desire. After the chest armor, came the white straps that separated the armor from her bare soft and desired skin. Instead of unwrapping it, though, Naruto was surprised when Yugao took her ninjato and performed a quick slicing motion inches from her skin. Much to his surprise and utter amazement, the ninjato only sliced the wrappings and revealed her breasts. Perfect was the only word that came out of Naruto's mouth as he remembered the last time he took some time admiring them. The woman knew that Naruto's eyes were fixated at the ladies, so she opted to play a little with them, before seeing a small smile appear on his mouth. She already knew what passed through her perverted boyfriend's mind with that smile alone. Still with her anbu pants on and her boots, She marched towards the bed and slowly climbed on top of her boyfriend, leaning towards his face. Yugao let out a sudden moan in surprise as Naruto's right hand grasped her left breast, before slowly massaging it. Meanwhile, she took her right hand and went downstairs, 100% sure that she would get the desired effect from her boyfriend. As soon as she touched it, she regretted her actions, simply because it not only got her desired effect, but also something happened inside of her. It was due to the number of flashbacks that passed through her mind of their previous times together. After that, she couldn't take it much longer and started kissing Naruto as if his mouth was a drug she couldn't live without. Their bodies were intertwining in random movements as each took their fair share of time pleasuring the other through the use of their hands. The makeout session ended up sending heated signals to their hormones, and it didn't take long for them to let go of their control and ravish each other's mouths. Both of Naruto's arms wrapped Yugao in a fierce hug, before grabbing Yugao's anbu pants. He ripped it off, before caressing her butt. The woman was, if possible, even more aroused at the display of strength. She took care of the rest and was now became completely naked next to her lover. Her hands returned to Naruto's member, but Naruto's hands also reached downstairs, earning a smile in pleasure from the woman. She knew what would follow next as Naruto's hands started massaging her clitoris slowly, performing small finger thrusts inside from time to time. The heat in the room was high enough to increase the amount of sweat produced by the couple, while proceeding with the act of love-making. Both of them enjoyed the feeling of direct skin contact added with teasing from both parties. Right now, Naruto's hand was massaging Yugao's lower area, while the woman was busy passing her hand over his member's tip. Neither allowed the other to let out a moan in pleasure, though, as they were involved in a hot kissing moment. It turned out to be a daunting task as each carved for a few seconds of breath. As soon as the kissing stopped, Yugao let out a long and sexy moan that practically hypnotized the blonde into believing that she wanted more. A needless assumption to be made, he reasoned. He immediately flipped positions and placed his body on top of Yugao, before using his tongue around her entire body. The tongue contact surprised the woman as she looked at how the blonde was working her breasts. His eyes were closed as he slowly rounded her nipples with his tongue. Biting her inner lip, she reached down and grabbed Naruto's hard member, before initiating a furious hand job. She caught his subtle loss of air and smiled, before using her free hand to slowly caress his blonde hair. She always wondered why it was so soft, since her boyfriend wasn't much interested in washing his hair. She never complained, though. "You seem to be quite eager, Yugao-chan." While maintaining the attention to her chest, his eyes were locked with hers, as he waited for her response. His tongue, then, started its descent and landed right where Yugao wanted it. "You actually took longer this time." As if anticipating Naruto's actions, Yugao immediately bended her body backwards at the sudden explosion of arousal as Naruto's tongue found its way inside her. She immediately released her hold on Naruto's member because of it as her body trembled in excitement. Naruto's hands forced her thigh to open the path for him and she didn't resist. Instead, both her hands started massaging her breasts, while screaming Naruto's name, asking for more tongue thrusts. Naruto happily attended and even increased the pace to which Yugao appreciated in kind by letting out a much louder moan. She lifted her body a bit as to admire her boyfriend's work. They remained like that for a good 10 minutes and Yugao wished she could remain like that forever. Unfortunately, her body carved for more than just his tongue. "Oh Kami, I want it now Naru-kun." The blonde smiled and immediately released his tongue from active duty, before placing his member in a straight path towards Yugao's entry point. He took his time entering slowly, while opening her inner walls. Yugao could feel her insides being filled by his member and even rolled her eyes, after the blonde reached the back wall. Afterwards, he got into position on top of her and initiated the thrust sequence. The couple hugged each other and kissed, while the blonde increased the pace. Maintaining the kiss, Yugao let out silent moans, showing how she was struggling to maintain the make-out session while feeling Naruto's member filling her inside walls. When the kiss ended, the couple stared at each other with passion. Between hitched breaths of ecstasy, neither felt the interest to do anything other than look at the other's eyes. "I love you Naruto-kun." As soon as the words came out of Yugao's mouth, a broad smile appeared on her boyfriend's face. She smiled even more when a lone tear escaped his eyes. It was the first time someone ever said that to him. I love you too, Yugao-chan. After that, he landed a fierce and passionate kiss on her lips, which Yugao returned eagerly as Naruto remained the penetration. The couple remained the act of love-making for quite a while, hugging each other as well. This was their moment and no one would dare ruin it. End of lemon. After the love-making, the two considered their options. Both were covered with sweat from the love-making and a co-op shower would be the most suitable choice. But, instead, they simply remained in bed as Yugao was busy resting her head on Naruto's chest. That moment right there was everything both cherished. Both were surrounded with life and death situations, with Naruto being hunted by the Akatsuki because of his Jinchuriki status and Yugao being an Anbu captain. These precious moments together made all the difference in their worlds. That's why neither one of them ever felt the need to go out on dates or even appear to the public as boyfriend and girlfriend. In Naruto's world, the only ones who knew were Kakashi and the two Sanins. In Yugao's world, her entire Anbu squad knew, but they were her family as much as the Sanins and Kakashi were Naruto's. They were the ones that mattered to this couple. This couldn't be better, right, Naruto-kun? Yugao could see his smile that seemed to brighten the room every time. You got that right. Their only complaint was that Konoha didn't have a delivery service. Back at the meeting. A lot of time passed since the voting began and Tsunade was busy massaging her temples while listening to a minor ninja clan head announcing his vote against the alliance. The reasoning for such was valid. Pretty much all of those against it had every right to be upset at Kumogakure for their actions at the last Great Shinobi War. The man that just spoke belonged to a clan famous for their water-based techniques. The clan supplied a great load of new water ninjutsu for the hidden village in the leaves, and some of the techniques managed to save quite a lot of lives. The clan, though, suffered a great many casualties from the hands of Kumo's finest. So, the Hokage couldn't take away the merit of his decision. So far, the vote was pretty much tied. In fact, only one clan remained from voting, the Hyuga clan. Throughout the entire meeting, Hiashi remained silent with his eyes closed and his arms crossed. Well, after hearing everyone's votes and reasons for such, I announce that the voting is tied right now. Only one remains, so I pass the word to you, Hiashi. The destiny of this alliance is hereby decided by the Hyuga clan. Everyone who knew Tsunade up close knew the meaning behind her detached tone right now. She had lost all hope of the alliance's approval. She now depended on the head of the Hyuga clan to vote in favor of an alliance with a village that tried to kidnap his daughter Hinata and managed to kill his twin brother Hisashi. It was the same as expecting Sasuke to vote against his brother Itachi's death. It simply wasn't possible in her mind. Hiashi, for his part, opened his eyes, but remained with his arms crossed. He didn't stand up like the others, since he preferred to remain seated. Since the beginning of wars waged against Konohagakure, Kumogakure has been an enemy. I remember my deceased father and grandfather telling me about their actions during the first Great Ninja War, and since then, I've learned to watch out for them. But it wasn't until that fateful day when the Kumogakure emissary attempted to kidnap my daughter, which resulted in my brother's death, that I openly expressed my hatred for them. Hiashi spoke, with enough calm, about what was possibly the worst day of his life. Hisashi's death affected almost everyone in the clan, including both my daughter and my nephew Neji, up to the point that the boy resented the main family because of it. Therefore, Hokage-sama, based on those facts alone, my vote would be against the alliance. Tsunade released a sigh in dismay and nodded, but something inside her mind repeated the word, would, that escaped from the man's mouth. Nevertheless, with the situation we are facing right now, namely the organization Akatsuki and the danger they pose to our village, it would be quite selfish on my part to believe that Konohagakure alone could deal with the current threat. The known associates from the organization are dangerous enough in their own right, not to mention the other members we are still due to meet. For all we know, both Itachi and Kisame may be their weakest members. Kumogakure is in possession of 2 Jinchurikis, both of them in full control of the tailed beasts. That's a power that we cannot ignore, and it would be in our favor against Akatsuki. Therefore, my vote is in favor of the alliance, but for the sole purpose of defeating Akatsuki, nothing more. As soon as Hiashi spoke, silence ruled the meeting as everyone looked at the pupil-less man in front of them with clear surprise. Even the Hokage was wide-eyed at this amazing turn of events. The one person she expected to ruin the alliance ended up saving it. With a smile on her face, she grabbed the official Hokage seal and branded the offer with it, before passing to Shizune for the necessary arrangements. Now that the first and, in her opinion, hardest part was over, it now came the time to pass the ball to the Kazekage and their council. And she had the perfect ninja for the assignment of communicating Gaara about the approval. After all, it was their idea to talk with the other cages in the first place. If Tsunade wasn't mistaken, Yugao was on a slight vacation right now. Perhaps, this little trip might do her some good as well. With Naruto . Still complaining about the lack of delivery services in Konoha, Naruto and Yugao went to the kitchen and fixed some sandwiches for them. Their plan right now was to finish their sandwiches and go straight to bed. Neither one had any plans right now and sleeping sounded like a winner. However, it was in these moments that something happened and ruined their moment. This time, it came from a knock on the door. Immediately, Naruto and Yugao looked at each other for a while and sighed in dismay. Naruto didn't have many visitors, if any at all. Putting on some light clothes, since he was still naked, the blonde approached the door and opened before seeing Kakashi with his normal salute. Yo Naruto, can I come in? I have some important business to discuss. Sure Kakashi-sensei. Wait just a minute. Yugao-chan, Kakashi is coming in. The man had enough experience to know that if he were to enter the apartment right now, he would have seen his ex-Anbu partner without her clothes. Practically imagining what occurred throughout the day, the man felt the need to let out his perverted laughter. The blonde seemed to catch on that, seeing as Jiraiya had the same look on his face at times. Both of them always pictured themselves reading and writing a book describing everything in full detail. You're not thinking what I guess you're thinking, huh, Kakashi-sensei? Kakashi looked surprised at his student, before waving dismissively, as in trying to dissuade his student of that idea. Evening Kakashi-senpai, Yugao said as she appeared behind Naruto with black shorts and a sleeveless shirt. Kakashi greeted the woman and entered the apartment as Naruto closed the door. Once the three shinobi were at the kitchen, Kakashi threw a scroll straight at Naruto. The blonde caught it and looked at his sensei. He knew what that meant. He had to leave Yugao once more. Something in that sounded weird for him. Where to this time, sensei? Yugao was sad as well, but maintained a stoic demeanor, while waiting for Kakashi's explanation. The man then took his time explaining what happened today, beginning from the Raikage's letter and finishing with the alliance's approval. He explained that the proposal must pass through the Sunagakure Council's analysis, hence the location of the mission. Naruto sighed once more and nodded at his sensei. Kakashi could see the sudden sad atmosphere in the room. The blonde dismissed himself to get dressed for the assignment, leaving Kakashi alone with Yugao. What's up with him? Kakashi asked, but needed to rephrase it. What's up with both of you? Naruto had just arrived from that mission to Kumogakure and were hoping to spend some more time together. With the Anbu missions and his, we barely spent time together. Kakashi smiled, though. Why are you smiling? Is my sadness amusing to you, Kakashi-senpai? The man remembered how threatening this tone of hers really was, so he decided to stop teasing. He knew about her abilities with a sword. I never said that I would be the one to go with him, Yugao. Do you still have your old Junin clothes? It took actually a minute for the woman to understand what was going on, before she smiled at the man. She left the table and went to tell the news to Naruto in a happier tone that Kakashi was accustomed to seeing. He figured that right now his presence was not necessary, so he went to the door. Before closing the door, he heard Naruto asking if Yugao even had a Junin outfit, considering that she has been in Anbu for a long time now. Next day Naruto and Yugao left Konoha at the break of dawn, considering the mission's importance. Naruto was wearing the same outfit he always wore, but Yugao's was different. Not hotter than her Anbu outfit in Naruto's opinion, but it fitted her nicely. She didn't let go of the Anbu-style black pants and added with fishnet shirt, covered by the Junin vest. She never enjoyed using clothes that would restrict her sword movements, so she always preferred sleeveless clothes. It didn't mean that Naruto stopped commenting on how sexy she was in ninja clothes. She joked with him about quitting with the flattery, but inside she loved every single second of it. This was their first mission and she remembered to thank the Hokage for it. Surprisingly so, before leaving, they were greeted by Kakashi at the gates together with the Hokage. This was perhaps the first time Kakashi was early for something. It didn't take them long to leave the village's security perimeter as they charged towards Sunagakure with extreme speeds. Time was of the essence, after all. Okay, Yugao-chan, seeing as you're the leader of the mission, how shall we proceed? The woman could feel a playful tone, but decided to go along with it. Well, seeing as I'm the boss, I can order you to do anything, right? Otherwise, I could report your insubordination. Now her tone indicated something different and it looked like Naruto caught it right away. His girlfriend had some sort of kinky switch every now and then. It didn't mean that he would be complaining about it anytime soon, if ever at all. Yeah, so what is it that the boss requires, then? She turned at him with a smile that scared him a little bit. Even to a ninja, Suna required a 2-day trip. That meant that they would have to set up camp by the end of the day. With Sasuke . Lying alone in one of the many rooms stationed inside one of Orochimaru's hidden bases, Uchiha Sasuke had been looking at the ceiling for quite a long time now. The need for sleep didn't come to him as often as it should, and it had started since the encounter with the Sannin Jiraiya. 3 years ago, he betrayed Konohagakure, the very village his ancestors helped create, for one purpose. Gain power, and with that power, kill his brother once and for all. Throughout the 3 years, Sasuke threw himself into a hard training, studying under a Sannin of Orochimaru's caliber. He managed to accumulate a great load of knowledge through his eyes up to the point that his level has surpassed that of a mid-level Junin in terms of skill. That's not to count his cursed seal level 1 and 2, both of which gives him an edge over high-level Junins. Yet, after all that training, after all that hard labor, Jiraiya hardly had to work in order to beat the shit out of him. The Uchiha clan's pride is simply uncontrollable, and for Sasuke, being beaten so easily, really did hurt. However, what hurt even more was the pervert's comment about the fact that the Dobe was stronger than him. Getting beaten by a Sannin, he could understand given that even Orochimaru had trouble with the guy. The thought of being inferior to Naruto in skill simply wasn't believable. The Dobe was simply too much behind him 3 years ago, that even if Naruto managed to learn some stuff, he would be miles away from even being comparable. There was simply no chance in hell that the Dobe became that strong. Being around Orochimaru and Kabuto, Sasuke heard quite a lot of what happened recently. How they conversed about Naruto being able to deal with 2 Akatsuki agents, Deidara of Iwagakure and Sasori of Sunagakure, both considered S-rank missing nins. According to the information, Naruto's knowledge of wind ninjutsu was quite considerable, so Sasuke wondered about the possibility that the Dobe managed to learn elemental manipulation in only 3 years. He has been practicing since he was 9 years old under his father's tutelage. What did Naruto have that he didn't? 3 years ago, Sasuke truly believed he was being held back by Konoha, but now he couldn't help but realize that there wasn't much more the Sannin Orochimaru could give him. Perhaps, it was due time to go out there and fight some serious level shinobi and perhaps even copy new jutsus with the Sharingan. Itachi would meet his end by his hand one day, but right now he simply couldn't stay here any longer. The boy didn't need to be a genius to realize that his sensei would do everything in his grasp to stop Sasuke from fleeing. Sasuke also knew what Orochimaru's plans were for him, and to tell the truth, he didn't believe it to be enough to defeat Itachi. Only a true Uchiha could defeat another, he thought. In order to escape, Sasuke had to take advantage of the man's increasing disease. Once he escaped, he would work twice as hard in order to master his skills against powerful ninjas. With Naruto . A day and a half has passed since Naruto and Yugao left Konoha, and they were already running throughout the desert. Since Naruto had already taken this path, Yugao placed him inches in front of her, so that they could travel much faster. Naruto would use his wind skills to decrease the air resistance in front of him and compensate it behind him, thus increasing his speed as well as Yugao's. If someone were to study more closely, it seemed as if there was a force field surrounding both of them. Yugao had to admit that she had never felt this light before in her life. The noise from each step on the ground was almost non-existent. Once in the desert, the couple could see the place where Sunagakure was created appearing on the horizon. It would take 30 minutes more give or take for them to reach the hidden village of sand. Because of Naruto's technique, he ended up lifting a small path of sand, so if someone were to look from a telescope, he or she could spot a considerable ball of sand moving in a straight line for Suna. The gate guard did notice and warned the Kazekage immediately. Gaara took a while, but smiled upon feeling the person's identity along with someone else he didn't know. He asked his siblings to greet his fellow Jinchuriki brother. While going back to his office, Gaara hoped that Naruto came with some good news. Orochimaru was a perfectionist in every sense of the word. Everything he did, everything he designed, everything he thought was meant for a specific purpose. The man didn't bother his time with frivolities that didn't lead him to anything worthwhile. The same could be applied to his base-like design. Every base he created had the same design, in order to confuse intruders. His bases were shaped like a maze with a great number of hallways. Some of them were dead ends, some of them were filled with doors that led to empty rooms, and only a small number of hallways that actually led to the important parts of the base, like Orochimaru's lab, training grounds, and his subordinates' rooms. The halls that were dead ends even had hidden traps that would kill any intruder. That being said, if the intruder got lost, he would die. In one specific base located in the deep confines of Wind Country, aside from Kabuto and Orochimaru himself, only one shinobi resided. Uchiha Sasuke. The Sharingan user was currently inside his room resting after a hard training consisted of purely lightning manipulation. He stood still the entire time, not moving, but he was tired because of the strain of using large amounts of chakra. Because of the drug treatment provided by Kabuto, Sasuke's chakra took less time to be replenished. He could practically feel his chakra pool being filled. His heart rate was pounding quite hard at the prospect of what he was about to do when his chakra capacity returned to normal. After more than 3 years training under a Sannin, Sasuke figured that he didn't have much more to learn under the man. His next step towards improvement was experience against other fighters. He had fought against a great number of enemies throughout the year, but he always had either Orochimaru or Kabuto by his side. It just wasn't the same thing. With the base map memorized, Sasuke had created a plan to escape the base. Throughout this month, he observed the routine of both Orochimaru and Kabuto. The first was not a problem, since the man either was inside his lab or inside his room. Kabuto, though, was a problem, because he usually explored all the hallways of the base. Sasuke, though, figured out that after passing by his room, the man only returned 15 minutes later, thus giving Sasuke a nice window to escape. He only needed to be careful not to leave clues on his way out. Closing his eyes for the moment, he waited for his chakra to be filled. Kabuto's steps could be heard a mile away, so the Uchiha knew when he was coming. The sound of the steps increased, and thus Sasuke knew that Kabuto was passing by his hallway and doorstep. The door handle was turned a couple times, but Kabuto knew it was locked. It wasn't that much of a security, but Sasuke knew that should he use any type of technique to blast the door, his escape would be impossible. The Uchiha heard Kabuto walking once more and opened his eyes immediately. He had little time to leave. Quickly grabbing a hidden key below his bed, Sasuke slowly opened the door to his room and looked for any presence outside. He couldn't fully open the door because he couldn't risk causing any noise that would alert his caretakers. Once in the hallway, Sasuke closed the door and used his key to lock it. With a quick burst of chakra, he ignited the key on fire and melted it instantly. After a couple hand seals, the Uchiha placed a false surroundings genjutsu in front of his door so that when Kabuto passes by, he won't see anything different. The problem was now to walk towards the exit, without making a single sound. Anbu Shinobi had a nifty technique that consisted of creating a layer of chakra below their feet for infiltration purposes. Said technique happened to be in the details inside the Uchiha clan's library, and Sasuke remembered how he used to practice it by sneaking on his brother from time to time. Bastard somehow always knew I was coming. Sasuke took 10 minutes before he saw the exit in front of him. He allowed a few seconds and smirked at his plan. So far, he didn't feel anyone approaching. The only thing left was to take care of the sound ninja that stood in front of the base entrance as guards. The guards were 3 in total, but Sasuke dealt with them quickly, using the blunt side of his Kusanagi sword. He used another genjutsu and quickly left the base towards another one that his clan used to have. Anyone who passed by here would think that the guards were taking the duty seriously, when in fact they would only wake up 2 or 3 hours later. Enough time for the Uchiha to vanish without a trace. He knew that Orochimaru had ways to find him because of the cursed seal, but his reach was limited to a 50 miles radius from the snake's position. Sasuke could cover this distance in less than 15 minutes. In Sunagakure . Unaware of the escape of his former teammate, Uzumaki Naruto and his girlfriend Yugao had arrived at the hidden village of Wind, before being escorted towards the Kazekige's office by the Chunin guard. The village hadn't changed much since his last visit, but that wouldn't change anytime soon. The entire village was covered with sand and sand-colored buildings. The population wore clothes that protected them from the sandstorms and extreme heat. Aside from that, the village wasn't that bad in Naruto's book, though he figured that taking this heat and waking on hot sand daily would get on his damn nerves in no time at all. Yugao didn't mind much, being oftentimes at the village when she was but a chunin. As soon as the Konoha ninjas entered the Kazekige's tower, Naruto couldn't help but release a sigh in relaxation upon escaping the strong heat. If the sand chunin was angered by it, he didn't comment, but Yugao was looking at her boyfriend with a slight angered look for his disregard for others' living arrangements. Naruto, though, simply shrugged his shoulders at her worry, while they casually walked through the tower's hallways. As they walked, Naruto managed to recognize a few Suna ninjas, though one of them he was dreading actually. Baki appeared in front of them and Naruto remembered that the man was responsible for killing Yugao's old lover, a Tokubutsu Junin named Geku Hayate. Yugao, for her part, recognized the man immediately and unconsciously grabbed her sword handle. Another hand joined hers while holding the sword and the woman was surprised that Naruto was stopping her. She was surprised at everything because her body pretty much acted on old hatred. She took a while to register what happened as the man passed by them. The sand chunin that was accompanying him stopped immediately and looked at the imminent threat. Is there a problem? The man asked, already in position to retaliate, before Naruto released his hold on Yugao's. Nothing you should concern yourself with, sorry about that. She gets jumpy with strangers from time to time. The chunin looked at them for a while before nodding. Yugao looked at the blonde silently thanking him for the cover-up. As an Anbu captain, she had a very good idea of what could have happened if Naruto hadn't moved in time to stop her. The boy simply smiled affectionately and nodded at her. He knew how deep Yugao's feelings for Hayate were. Ever since their paths crossed, they talked about all sorts of things, including what happened to his lover after Hayate was killed by the sand nin Baki. Naruto's pain from being a Jinchuriki did little to help him understand the pain of losing someone he loved, but he managed to help Yugao by always being there for her, both mentally and physically. Being there physically meant being the punching bag for her frustrations. It didn't take them much longer to reach the Kazekige's office, before the chunin opened the door and let Naruto and Yugao in. Kazekige-sama, Uzumaki Naruto and Azuki Yugao from Konoha are here to see you. Gaara lifted his head from the stack of paperwork and looked at the door before his friend and a woman walked inside. Greetings Kazekige-sama, hi there Gaara. Naruto and Yugao said almost at the same time, before Yugao looked at her boyfriend shocked at the level of disregard. It was one thing to say that to the Hokage, but to a Kage of another village was unheard of. She could tell that the Kazekige wasn't annoyed as she thought he would be. On contrary, the Wind Shadow was smiling at her boyfriend. Yugao moved this event and filed it inside the folder named things her boyfriend did and that she shouldn't be surprised he got away with it. It was becoming slightly hard to remember all of it, but it still had space in the hard drive for her to remember. Since you're here Naruto, I guess that whatever info you have is in reference to Akatsuki. Naruto nodded, before starting to report. The Hokage sent my team to Kumogakure in order to deliver a letter to the Reikage containing all information on Akatsuki and its members. Like you perhaps expected, the man, who is huge by the way, wasn't that much interested in receiving it. According to him, one organization made of 9 missing nin couldn't scare one of the great hidden villages. Despite Gaara's serious expression, he had to let out a small snort at that, showing how arrogant the Reikage was, but he let Naruto continue. After Kakashi-sensei mentioned some of the names, though, the Reikage changed his mind a bit. He agreed to accept the information, but only if I agreed to fight his brother, the Hachibi Jinchuriki. Gaara's eyebrow slightly rose at this as he knew that the Hachibi Jinchuriki was the only Jinchuriki that managed to master the full power of its Beiyu. Luckily for me, the guy underestimated me. I managed to seal off his Bijuu's chakra, leaving him tired enough for me to use the power of the fox and beat him. After Naruto finished, he could see Gaara smirking at him. So, considering your victory over the Hachibi Jinchuriki, I assume that the Raikage accepted the info on Akatsuki. The blonde nodded, talking once more. Yugao was fine with Naruto doing all the talking. She was on vacation after all. Yes, he did. During my fight, though, 2 Akatsuki members attempted to capture the two-tailed Jinchuriki, but the Raikage and his Anbu managed to stop them. It was pretty close, though, let me tell you. The woman was entirely drenched in blood and was about to be taken by the pair when the Raikage arrived, forcing the two to flee. I'd have imagined them to flee with her body, but somehow the Raikage managed to stop them. Gaara's brain was overloaded with new information on the organization. His stoic demeanor just couldn't keep up with Naruto's expertise in being at the same place that the organization was every goddamn time. Do you have the names, Naruto? I don't suppose that the members were Itachi and Kisame, since they are the members designated to capture you. Naruto smirked at Gaara's perception. One of them is Kakazu from Waterfall and the other is hidden from Hot Springs. Not much is known about the two of them, just the report from the Nibi Jinchuriki. According to her, Kakazu barely fought at all, using only taijutsu at her with Earth Chakra. Hidden, though, is the most peculiar, at least from what her report said. He only attacked using a tri-blade red scythe. The woman used every skill she had at her disposal and she hit the man with all of them. Even some Bayou lace techniques weren't enough to kill the guy. He just kept coming. The technique Hidden used to beat her would have killed anyone else. Yugito, the Nibi Jinchuriki, only survived because of her Bayou quickly closing the wound. She didn't understand it, but this hidden character did something to his skin, before deliberately wounding himself. The attack was immediately transferred to Yugito as if he had attacked her instead. It is indeed quite disturbing. Gaara was paying attention the entire time and even taking notes of Naruto's explanation. The news was quite troubling if the report was accurate. An immortal shinobi was unheard of. Perhaps Hidden did something to Yugito before initiating his attack, otherwise it wouldn't be possible to establish said connection. Yugao said, earning the Kazekage's attention, before nodding at the silent woman's logic. Gaara wasn't familiar with this village called Hot Springs, so he didn't know their practices. Indeed, in order to engage this S-ranked missing nin, he or she must not allow Hidden to do any harm. Perhaps his defense ability could be the answer to Hidden. Indeed, Yugao-san. Anyway, Naruto, I believe you didn't come here merely to report your success. It was part of it, actually. The other reason is a notification scroll for you sent by the Hokage. Kumogakure not only accepted the information but also brought up the idea of a temporary alliance in order to defeat Akatsuki. It's up to Suna and its council now, to accept the terms. Naruto said, before giving the scroll to Gaara, who nodded, before opening the scroll completely. The terms weren't that extensive actually, allowing Gaara to analyze it entirely in only mere minutes. According to the scroll, the 3 villages would form a temporary truce in order to eliminate the threat represented by Akatsuki. It consisted of forming a special group of shinobi from all 3 villages in order to defeat the organization. I'll pass this with my council. Now, while your attempt bore fruit, mine didn't. The Tsushikage dismissed the idea of any form of alliance with Suna, much less with Konoha, for obvious reasons. Kirigakure and Takagakure decided to remain neutral in this matter. Both villages reasoned that since their Jinchuriki were already captured by the organization, there was no imminent threat right now to consider. Not even giving them the bigger picture of Akatsuki capturing the 9 Bayou was enough. Still, now that Deidara and Sasori are dead, we only have 7 missing nin to deal with. Certainly we can create groups to counter each one of them, considering that we meet all of them, of course. Naruto and Yugao nodded at Gaara's comment. Well, since our mission here is done, we'll be taking our leave, Gaara. The Kazekage appreciated the report and released them before going back to his paperwork. After leaving the Kazekage's office, Yugao and Naruto turned to find a hotel for them to rest for the day. Their return to Konoha wasn't urgent, but consummating their relationship was. With Sasuke . Sasuke kept on running towards this special location using all the strength and chakra he had at his disposal. He had an idea of the distance needed for Orochimaru to use his cursed seal against the Uchiha, but he wouldn't risk it. The place he was heading toward was used by the Uchiha clan for weapon and medicine supply, as well as information gathering in the past. This place held a lot of memories for young Sasuke as he remembered the numbers of times that he went there with his elder brother. Just thinking of those times made Sasuke's blood boil. Every memory he had were happy ones. For the life of him, he couldn't figure out how his brother went from that to what he is now. With a new vigor, Sasuke remained running until he could see a giant castle located in a deserted field. It didn't take 10 minutes before he arrived at the city as he walked throughout the seemingly empty street. The yellow eyes that appeared in all the dark places, though, showed him that he wasn't alone. No one attempted to appear before the Uchiha, and it suited him just fine since he wasn't looking forward to starting a conversation. The one he wanted to speak with certainly wouldn't be out on the streets. Sasuke entered what appeared to be an abandoned two-story house. Once inside, he crossed the hallway, leading towards a bright yellow light at the end. Before he could reach the end of the hallway, though, Sasuke was interrupted by a strange voice coming from behind. It's been a long time, Sasuke-kun. The Uchiha turned and met two cats dressed in ninja gear. Yes, it has Denka and Hina. Is Granny Cat here? She is at the usual place, waiting for you to arrive. Sasuke nodded and proceeded to walk once more, before he reached the end of the hallway. As soon as he stepped foot inside the seemingly small room, Sasuke couldn't help but look around once more. The room was rather plain with beige walls, completely filled with weapons from all types and sizes: shuriken, kunai, ninjato, katana, kodashi, bow staff, wakizashi, and pretty much a lot of other weapons that would lead a certain kunoiki in Konoha through countless orgasms. Right in the middle of the room stood Granny Cat, appearing half cat and half woman. She was seating on top of a blue pillow, while smoking her pipe. Sasuke-kun, it's been ages since you last came to visit. Indeed, Granny Cat, the reason for the visit is brief as I'm in need of supplies. The woman nodded, though slightly peeved by the reserved expression on Sasuke's face. After gathering everything he needed, going from first aid kits to projectiles such as shuriken, kunai and explosive tags, Sasuke tossed the money to the elder woman and bowed in respect. He was about to turn and leave when the old lady decided to speak. You're going after him now, aren't you? Sasuke froze upon leaving the house, before turning to meet the old lady's gaze. Nowadays, the only one alive that remembered how close the Uchiha brothers were was her. The relation shared between the Uchiha clan and the cats goes a long way, and thus Granny Cat has seen a lot of things that happened to the Sharingan family. All that remains from a once prominent clan are Sasuke and Itachi. Now, one of the two will live and other will die. Yes, it was nice seeing you, Granny Cat. I'll take my leave now. As she watched Sasuke leaving, the elder cat couldn't help but release a long sigh in dismay at what was about to happen between the Uchiha brothers. Orochimaru's base . What was once a rather secluded place occupied by only 3 shinobi, now was filled with Orochimaru's underlings. The reason was pretty simple, and it didn't take 2 seconds for everyone to know that their master was pissed, well more pissed than usual. Last night, Uchiha Sasuke managed to escape from the grasp without so much of a trace. Both Orochimaru and Kabuto were clueless as to the reason behind the escape. Sasuke has never shown any hint of uneasiness about being there. Even to a man such as Orochimaru, who prided himself of being able to get a rise out of everyone with the smallest of efforts, excluding Itachi of course. The man's underlings were currently running throughout the corridors, trying to catch something that would lead him to Uchiha Sasuke. Meanwhile, Orochimaru was lying on his bed as he waited for any news concerning the whereabouts of his next vessel. The man was livid as he was constantly snarling his teeth in anger. The time was drawing near and he needed to switch bodies or else he would die. Sasuke's body was developed enough for Orochimaru's skills and knowledge. The time was so close. He was counting on making the transfer in 2 days from now. Kabuto was already preparing the medicine. Speaking of the devil, said man had just now entered his master's bedroom. Speak to me, Kabuto. Have you found anything about Sasuke-kun? Kabuto couldn't help but wince at the weak tone in which his master was speaking. Orochimaru's right-hand man slowly adjusted his glasses before fixing his gaze on his master's weak form lying on his bed. Considering the past experiences, Kabuto understood that anyone that came here with bad news ended up getting killed by Orochimaru. However, in the state he was now in, Kabuto doubted the man could pose the same level of threat. For the medic Nin, it was slightly unnerving to see such a powerful and fierce shinobi being reduced to a pathetic and frail snake. Nothing so far, Orochimaru-sama. No clues were found inside his room. His door was locked and yet he managed to open it, somehow, without alerting me. Orochimaru snarled once more, before coughing blood. Failure is unacceptable, Kabuto. Find my vessel immediately. Kabuto nodded, even more unnerved by the lack of hostility in the likes, perhaps, of Orochimaru's sword inches from his neck. The right-hand man nodded, though, and left his master alone in pain. He coughed even more blood and cursed his bad luck that Sasuke went missing just a few days from the transfer. It seems you're in a tough situation, Orochimaru. The voice alerted the Sannin, before a vortex appeared in front of his bed. The orange spiral mask wasn't familiar, but the outfit surely was. It was just his luck to face an Akatsuki member when he was too weak to defend himself. The man must have read his mind, because he started chuckling at him, daring to mock one of the Sannin. My appearance here before you must have put you on edge, huh? Surely, the news of Uchiha Sasuke escaping from your clutches wasn't the only bad occurrence today. Orochimaru immediately narrowed his eyes at the Akatsuki member. The news of Sasuke's defection couldn't have reached Akatsuki's ears so quickly. Even with a man such as Zetsu amongst their ranks, it would take at least 2 days from the event for the leader Pain to be aware of what really happened. Who are you and how do you know of Sasuke? Orochimaru was deeply suspicious of this man. He knew down to a complete certainty that the organization didn't and couldn't know about Sasuke so fast. Could it be that he helped Sasuke escape? Not possible, there are a great number of chakra detection seals sprawled all over this base. If he appeared, I would have known immediately. I'm not here to appease your curiosity, Orochimaru, and my time is too important to waste on low lives like you. You can rest assured that Sasuke-kun will be taken care of. Toby crossed his arms for a while, before speaking once more. I have been lenient with your actions so far, regarding your experiments as well as your actions against the Uchiha clan. I know everything you did ever since you were born. I also know that if you can't have Sasuke right now, then you'll just choose another body to transfer your soul into. That being said, I'm afraid you overstayed your time on these lands. As soon as Toby finished talking, Orochimaru realized that his life was being threatened. He immediately went to action, but suddenly found himself unable to. His eyes were widened instantly as he stared at the lone Sharingan eye from the stranger. He immediately realized just why he was unable to move. Magen Kasegui no Jutsu, demonic illusion shackling stakes technique. Orochimaru was thus trapped in one of the Uchiha's unbreakable genjutsu. Orochimaru tried as hard as he could to overpower this man's chakra, hoping to disrupt it. However, he couldn't do it right now. He was terribly ill and couldn't mold chakra without damaging his already damaged organs. He couldn't even use the sword hidden inside of him. The Akatsuki member smirked arrogantly at the look of realization in Orochimaru's eye. As he took a lone kunai, he couldn't help but comment. Who would have thought that the almighty Orochimaru of the Sannin, once praised as one of the strongest shinobi, would be killed by a lone kunai? Toby quickly sliced Orochimaru's jugular with the kunai while maintaining the paralyzing genjutsu. The pain he just caused in Orochimaru would be enough to disrupt the genjutsu, but the Akatsuki member had a great deal of experience with the Sharingan and its capabilities. Casting a second-layered genjutsu was considered a high-level technique for a regular genjutsu master, but for him it was a piece of cake. Such is the power granted by the accursed Sharingan. The wound inflicted on Orochimaru was enough to open a blood vessel. The Sannin snarled and started coughing blood, even more so than before. He couldn't do anything to stop it. So this is it. After everything he had done, everything he went through to get where he was right now, he would die with a single kunai wound. As he closed his eyes, one last thought invaded his mind as to the identity of his killer. At first, he was pissed to be killed so easily, even if the man had a Sharingan. But now that he understood who the man was, Orochimaru couldn't help but show his last evil smirk, before his spirit left his body. After checking for a while, Toby let loose a small chuckle from being recognized by the Sannin, before vanishing just like he appeared in this room. 1 second later, entered Kabuto with bad news only to see the room filled with his master's blood and his master lying on his bed with no life in his eyes. At first, Kabuto was horrified that someone not only managed to infiltrate this hideout unnoticed, but also managed to kill the strongest Sannin without even alerting anyone of his presence. Undoubtedly so, whoever did this was powerful and extremely skilled. After a while, though, Kabuto's sick and twisted mind entered into play and he started imagining the possibility of using Orochimaru's body to study. Perhaps he could use the man's blood cells and incorporate them into his own. Quickly closing the door behind him, the room was suddenly dark as Kabuto started sealing Orochimaru's body in a scroll, before anyone could catch him doing. Meanwhile, the glass-wearing man was laughing like a hyena while doing so. After almost 30 years plotting the destruction of Konoha and becoming the ultimate being. In only one day, Orochimaru had lost the Sharingan, Sasuke's body for his transfer as well as his life. With Naruto . By the time the sun rose the next day, Naruto and Yugao had already passed the gates of Sunagakure and left towards Konoha. They were by no means in a hurry to return to Konoha, but that didn't mean that they could kick back and relax. Both were considered of high value to the village, Yugao as an Anbu captain and Naruto as one of the village's strongest Chunin and Jinchuriki of the Kyubi no Yoko. Naruto, being a Jinchuriki, showed that the more time he stayed away from the village, the more possibility there was of Akatsuki appearing in more number and capture him. As usual, the heat was unbearable, but being accustomed to it, neither complained much. Well, Naruto did, but it was more like whining to Yugao as it was clear to her that his speed wasn't altered much because of it. Yesterday night, Naruto was summoned by the Kazekage. According to Gaara, his council approved the alliance and he had already sent a letter to Tsunade with the approval. On the way back to the hidden village in the leaves, Naruto was wondering if Tsunade's council was the same as the one held in Konoha. He knew from the Hokage that every time she needed to pass something with the council it ended up being a pain in the ass to deal with. He wondered if the same happened with Gaara. Kumo and Tsunade didn't share a dark past like Iwa had with Tsunade and Konoha. Therefore, Naruto presumed that convincing the council of Tsunade wouldn't be too hard. Still, he kept his thoughts. His main concern was if Gaara, being a Jinchuriki and treated badly in the past, managed to get everyone's acceptance. He didn't know, though, that the one who chose Gaara as the Kazekage was the council itself. The couple managed to cross the border between Fire and Wind country, before stopping for a small break. They were at a small clearing located in between the desert, Wind country, and small vegetation, Fire country, followed by a small stream that would lead to a considerably sized river up ahead. It was at this precise moment that Naruto stopped dead and looked in front of him. Yugao was turned facing her lover, so she wasn't aware of what made her boyfriend act so seriously all of a sudden. As soon as she turned to see what was happening, Yugao narrowed her eyes as well. "It's been a long time, Naruto," the mysterious man said. He was wearing black pants and a large rope belt that was clearly holding a sword on his back. He had a loose long-sleeved shirt which hangs open across his chest. Fingerless gloves and black sandals completed the look of the man in front of them. The light obscured his appearance a bit, but the mysterious man's identity was no mystery to either of the Konoha nin. Naruto couldn't believe his eyes at the moment as in front of him was the very person he least wanted to meet. Right now, they were supposed to return to the village, in order to debrief the Hokage of the successful mission. Naruto just wasn't looking forward into dealing with such a pain at the moment. "Yes, it has Sasuke. I do wonder what you are doing here. Otogakure is quite far from here." Yugao was actually thinking amongst the same lines as her attention was focused on the Uchiha. "I'm not obliged to explain to you anything." A snort could be heard from Naruto followed by a mumble of, "Arrogant prick," but the Anbu captain ignored it. Being the leader of this mission, the choice of what to do was Yugao's. She was familiar with the special situation granted by the Hokage concerning Uchiha Sasuke. Yugao at the time didn't agree, because anyone who chose to betray the village was immediately labeled a missing nin. It wasn't her place to argue with the Hokage, but she knew that the woman only granted this, because of Haruno Sakura's feelings of the boy. Naruto, at the time, would have preferred it this way as well, so Yugao had to also blame him for Sasuke's treatment from the village he betrayed. Quickly assessing the situation, she turned to see Naruto's resolve on the matter. She didn't need to know him to see that Naruto intended to fight against Sasuke. Naruto had turned his eyes briefly to Yugao. "How do you want to deal with this?" The woman couldn't help but smirk at the obvious restraint in his part. I didn't know you would bother to ask, Naruto. He smirked at the obvious jab, but maintained the question. We can't walk away, because even if Sasuke isn't a missing nin, there are still orders to capture him alive and bring him back to the village. I know for a fact that you have never faced an opponent you cannot kill, but you kind of have to in this situation. By your posture, I'm inclined to believe you wish to face him alone, am I right? Naruto let out a small laugh at being so easily read by his girlfriend, but he could feel that the woman wasn't interested in denying his unspoken request. I won't step in, unless I see that you're in danger, Naruto. Naruto nodded at her and took a couple steps further to face Sasuke. The Uchiha, for his part, considered the words of both Jiraiya and Orochimaru concerning Naruto. According to Orochimaru, Naruto was able to deal with 2 Akatsuki members and Jiraiya said that Naruto was stronger than the Uchiha. Naruto was to be Sasuke's first opponent, then. I figured you'd want to waste both our times with nonsense about going back to the village. Sasuke had his arms crossed while speaking to Naruto. Sorry to disappoint you, team. 3 years ago, I've reached an important conclusion. Do you want to hear it? Sasuke said nothing, but Naruto wasn't counting on it. You don't care about anyone other than yourself. 3 years ago, your intentions were clear as day. You wanted to kill me. There was no cursed seal influencing your mind. After that day, I started seeing you differently. I began to see your true colors as an arrogant, narrow-minded prick who wanted nothing but power handed to you in a silver platter, no matter what the cost would be. So, why should I even consider thinking of bringing you back? Even if I was able to that fateful day, you wouldn't change. The second you spotted a new chance to escape, you would take it. The fact that Naruto's tone haven't altered throughout his explanation, indicated that he meant every word. The old Naruto wouldn't stop screaming at him in a pathetic attempt to convince him of the wrongness behind his actions. You've changed. Let's see if you can back that speech up with your fists. Immediately after speaking, Sasuke vanished from his position and attacked Naruto with his sword. The movement was fast, but Naruto managed to follow and used his bow staff to parry the attack. If the Uchiha was surprised that Naruto matched his speed, he wasn't showing. The two maintained the weapons clashing for a good while, before Sasuke saw Naruto's weapon staring to glow white. He immediately backed away and swiftly threw a great number of shuriken at Naruto. The entire load of projectile was blocked as Naruto started twirling his staff in front of him very fast. After stopping the last of the shuriken, Naruto charged Sasuke once more with great speed. Even if Sasuke wasn't using his Sharingan, he was surprised that Naruto's speed was superior to his own. Naruto used one of his sequence attacks, forcing Sasuke on the defensive. The Uchiha was grinding his teeth in anger while parrying the strikes. He faced a bow staff before, but this one was different somehow. Naruto attacked from the left with the left side of the staff and twisted his body fast to attack Sasuke from the right, using the other side. Sasuke was hit full force and backed away a bit, before doing hand seals. Kaiten Gukakyu no Jutsu, Fire Release, Grand Fireball Technique. The gigantic fireball charged at Naruto, but he managed to evade it before preparing some projectiles of his own. He threw them at Sasuke, before propelling them with the Rapusu, Wind Palm Gale, technique. Using his sword, this time with the Sharingan active, Sasuke sliced the projectile in half while looking at the blonde with different focus. He didn't feel he needed to use his eyes against Naruto and that thought angered him greatly. Somehow, he believed that Naruto used very little of what he could do so far and that little had forced him to use his dojutsu. Naruto saw the activation and snorted at the prick. Naruto knew that Sasuke would underestimate him. Everyone does at first, apparently. I see you started taking me seriously. Naruto was about to continue talking, but stopped once he felt the same thing he felt when he fought Itachi. Damn eyes. Deactivating the genjutsu casted by Sasuke, Naruto focused wind chakra through his bow staff and parried Sasuke's attack that would hit if he remained 2 more seconds inside the genjutsu. Naruto reminded that he was alone in this fight when against Itachi, he had Kakashi to aid him against the Sharingan's dojutsu. It was a blessing that a lot of his ninjutsu required not only mastery over water and wind elements, but also a lot of chakra to use, otherwise he would be reluctant in using jutsu for Sasuke to copy them. You still have a long way to go until you match your brother, Sasuke. It took me longer to break his than it took yours. The mention of his brother's name made Sasuke snarl and he charged Naruto once more. With the Sharingan activated, Sasuke's speed appeared higher than Naruto's. However, as Sasuke appeared inches from Naruto's back, he suddenly felt his body become a lot heavier than it should be, diminishing his speed. Naruto parried the sword strike and aimed a kick at Sasuke's chest. The Uchiha caught the movement with his eyes and quickly evaded. When he attempted another strike, like before, he was unable to move as fast as he could when in close proximity, allowing Naruto to parry the strike once more. This time, though, Naruto's following strike was faster. He could see wind chakra being focused on Naruto's fist, but he didn't know why he couldn't move out of the way. Naruto's punch hit the Uchiha dead on and sent him spinning. Not bothering to wait, Naruto threw a couple of shuriken at the still flying Sasuke, before performing hand seals. Shuriken Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, Shuriken Shadow Clone Technique. 2 shuriken multiplied into 20 and charged Sasuke with the intention of turning him into a pin cushion. Seeing the attack coming his way, Sasuke snarled and summoned a couple snakes who left his sleeves and formed a protective barrier in front of him. The snakes were immediately dispelled, but they managed to stop the attack. Sasuke by then had already recovered from Naruto's attack and was now facing him. He snarled at the blonde with a passion for giving this much trouble. "How are you doing this?" Sasuke screamed, hoping to take Naruto's attention. I'm not obliged to explain anything to you, Sasuke." Naruto was about to move for another attack when he suddenly flinched in pain. The Sasuke in front of him was suddenly transformed into snakes as the real one was behind him with his sword piercing Naruto's back. Before Sasuke could say anything, though, he was surprised when the Naruto he stabbed was transformed into water, showing that Naruto managed to use a Mizu Kawarimi in time to avoid the attack. Sasuke looked around for a while, before preparing his sword to parry a powerful strike from his left. He was surprised as hell when the blonde followed suit with a hug instead of another attack. One look at Naruto with the Sharingan was enough to tell him that he needed to escape and immediately. Bunshin Daibakuwa no Jutsu, Exploding Clone Technique. Naruto didn't overwhelm his clone with too much chakra, since he didn't want to create a big explosion that could kill the Uchiha. He needed him alive after all. As the smoke cleared, Naruto was shocked. Half of Sasuke's body remained like before, but the other part was gray and from his shoulder appeared a giant claw that was responsible for protecting him from the explosion. Immediately memories from their first fight came in Naruto's mind. Back then, Sasuke had 2 of those on his back, but he remembered that Sasuke used them to fly not for protection. So, Sasuke had somehow increased his cursed seal's usage. Naruto had to smile, though. "It seems you're taking me more seriously than before, huh Sasuke? Who would have thought that the Dobe would force you this much?" Sasuke's body reverted to normal, before black flames appeared all over his body. "You're nothing more than an annoying pest, Naruto. It's time I put an end to this nonsense," Sasuke said, before going through hand seals. Kaiten Gyuuka no Jutsu, Fire Release. Great Dragon Fire Technique. Sasuke exhaled large quantities of considerably sized fireballs with dragon heads at Naruto. Deciding to show Sasuke how outmatched he was against Naruto, the blonde rushed through his own series of hand seals. Suten Suryukiba no Jutsu, Water Release. Water Dragon Fang Technique. The Uchiha was surprised that Naruto was using a water-based ninjutsu. The blonde's water dragon was superior compared to Sasuke's fire ones, first because of the element. Second, while Sasuke focused in number, Naruto focused in size. The water dragon was charging at Sasuke while at the same time extinguishing Sasuke's fire dragons as if he wasn't there. After dealing with the fire dragons, the water dragon went after Sasuke. The Uchiha used his eyes to move from the dragon's path, not at all aware that this attack was slightly different than its brother, the Suryuden. Sasuke saw the dragon pass by him and he was about to charge Naruto with his cursed seal level 1, when he saw the beast's claws coming right at him. Strangely so, the claws started shining. Sasuke, though, believed that he had evaded the attack, but as soon as the paw reached his position, pain was the only thing he felt as the large part of his clothing was ripped to shreds. A big gash was seen on his chest as well. As Naruto moved for the capture, he suddenly felt a great level of dark chakra overcoming Sasuke. Seconds after, Sasuke was looking at Naruto with something akin to anger. He was now fully transformed into the Cursed Seal level 2 and thus his wounds were healed. He was snarling at Naruto, who in turn looked at his ex-teammate. The time to rely on his own power was over as the second level Cursed Seal was dangerous 3 years ago. Now, it was only logical to assume that it was more dangerous. Sasuke was about to lunge at Naruto fully intending to kill him. However, he stopped dead in his tracks as soon as he felt the malevolent red chakra surrounding Naruto. The red aura around the blonde reminded Sasuke of his previous fight 3 years ago. He was surprised, though, when instead of one tail, 2 tails appeared behind Naruto. The knowledge of Naruto being the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko appeared in Sasuke's mind and he cursed the blonde once more. According to Orochimaru, Naruto would never be able to use the Kyuubi's chakra because of its instability. After Naruto fully transformed, his eyes became similar to the fox and his teeth as well. His voice was altered as well. It seems you mastered your vile chakra, Sasuke, congratulations. While I haven't fully mastered mine, the amount I can use is more than enough to deal with you. The Uchiha snarled and considered his options right now. He could only think of one attack that could be effective against the Jinchuriki and that was the Chidori. He had no other technique, besides the one he wanted to use on Itachi, which could be used against Naruto. Even the one he intended to Itachi wasn't possible, considering the time needed to perform it. Doing the few hand seals, Sasuke began to focus great amounts of his Cursed Seal's chakra into the Chidori. First, it was blue, then it transformed into dark lightning as Sasuke looked at Naruto with extreme focus. There was just no way Naruto could dodge this, seeing as he had yet to charge that Rasengan of his. Sasuke lunged at the blonde with every speed he could muster and charged at Naruto. As he was inches from Naruto and almost on the verge of piercing the blonde's heart, however, Sasuke was surprised when a strong gust of wind started forming around the blonde. Sasuke immediately cursed his position, since he couldn't avoid it. The Chidori had lost its fight against Naruto's wind chakra, which was more powerful because of the fox's chakra. Sasuke's body was receiving multiple wind attacks all over his body. Fuyuten Surezu no Tatsumaki, wind release, slicing tornado technique. The Uchiha's screams were buffered by the force of the wind. His Cursed Seal was already receded by the time his body hit the ground hard. Sasuke was unconscious upon hitting his head on the ground. Immediately dispelling the fox's chakra, Naruto controlled his breathing for a while, before looking at the downed Uchiha in front of him. Up to this point, Naruto only said that he had forgotten about the Uchiha as a friend and a teammate. With Sasuke, you really couldn't be sure until they exchanged fists with each other. This way, Naruto could see if he had really forgotten Sasuke. As he looked, he couldn't help but snort. It was true. He had felt no sympathy whatsoever for the unconscious Uchiha. Now, he would be taken back to Konoha and dealt with as the traitor he was. As he started walking, Yugao joined him and placed a hand on his shoulder. A small nod from her was all it took for Naruto. A sudden presence alerted the two, before they turned to Sasuke. I see that Sasuke lost. The type of clothes immediately set the couple on edge. Akatsuki, Naruto immediately cursed their appearance. He wasted a great load of chakra fighting Sasuke. Yugao was immediately by his side, also dreading their presence. You're getting stronger, Uzumaki Naruto. You'll certainly prove more useful to me than I have anticipated. Relax, I'm not interested in capturing you right now. However, the time will certainly come and you won't be able to do anything about it. Toby said, before vanishing with his vortex with the unconscious Sasuke on his shoulder. The Konoha ninja was surprised to see that the man vanished instantly as if he wasn't even there in the first place. Just who was this new member? Naruto and Yugao turned and hurried back to Konoha. What started out as a rather easy C-ranked mission, turned out to be A-ranked, because of the encounter. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.